So, Matthew, when I was flying to UK, I already had a part-time role before flying to UK. What placements mean in India is very different to what placements mean in UK.
Mm.
You can leave certain things on your university, but you can't here.
What do you think the international student can do to show themselves worthy of a particular role being advertised on the job market?
Firstly,
Mm.
don't do this mistake in UK or anywhere abroad. So I've seen me getting offers as against some Britishers. Employers have started to recognize the value that international students add.
Mm-hmm. Mayuri is an engineer from India Institute of Technology who later pursued a second master's in career guidance from the UK. She worked as a career coach in the UK before going back to India and now working as an international student advisor. She's a recipient of some of the most coveted abroad scholarships, including DAAD, Tatters, and many more. She's also a content creator on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn with a total followers of around 26,000. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mayuri.
Thank you so much for the lovely intro, Matthew. And it's my pleasure, absolutely. Thank you for reaching out.
Thank you so much, Mayuri. So, Mayuri, I'm going to start with one very important, question for us. I mean, you were once an international student here in the UK. So, can you just, briefly tell us what your experience was like as an international student?
Okay, so it was, I would say, Matthew, it was a very varied experience with ups and downs coming all together.
Mhm.
But overall, if I have to sum it up in a couple of sentences, would be it was a much needed experience for me, I feel, not just for my academics and career progression, but to really grow myself as an individual.
Mm.
Like hard skills are one thing that you learn out of your course and your academics, but what studying abroad essentially also helped me was in my soft skills and just evolving as a person, if I may say, because
Yeah.
you are completely in a foreign land, you're out of
Mhm.
your comfort zone, managing your finances, managing your physical and emotional health by yourself, and then managing everything else that goes above and beyond, basically
Mhm.
adulting all on your own. Studies
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
time role and looking for jobs and uh, groceries, cooking, everything. So I think I had a brilliant experience and my horizons just expanded over that. I'm very confident now and just I really value the study abroad experience that I had.
That's quite interesting, Mayuri, because I mean, from what you said, it is the cultural shift coming from, your home, to, a country you're not familiar with. Yeah. What are some of the biggest challenges that international students face when looking for job in the UK? And how does this differ from the challenges faced by the domestic student, that is the British student themselves?
Okay, all right. So this one, the first and foremost, I feel, and it is coming from my personal experience as well as experience of working in the industry with so
Mhm.
many students.
Mhm.
Now, number one is difference in the processes. Let me dissect it down by what I mean by difference in processes. So there are a lot of terminologies that might mean totally different in UK context as against in your home country. For example, placements. Now,
Mm.
placements is a very used words amongst international students to get some sort of experience in UK. Now, Matthew, what placements mean in India is very different to what placements mean in UK,
Mm.
and I'll just uncover that. So, placements essentially in India are job opportunities where a recruiter come to the campus
Mm.
in the universities, and then they have the entire process of shortlisting, interviews, and all those rounds of interviews within the campus,
Mhm.
and then there are set number of students shortlisted. So that's why a very important metric in Indian university is the placement percentage. Higher the placement percentage of a university, higher it is ranked, because
Mm.
then the university can brag that, hey, you know what, in 2022 our placement record was 100%, it was
Mm-hmm.
99%, and we helped 99 out of 100 students to get a placement slash job
Mm-hmm.
with these many companies.
Mm-hmm.
Now what Indian students are equipped in their thinking process is, okay, at the end of my course there'll be recruiters coming onto the campus. I only would need to prep it, only would need to prep for the interviews, and I think I'll basically, the opportunities are spoon fed.
Mm.
But the
Wow.
placements in UK are very different. Placements are essentially internship opportunities which you can pursue while still being enrolled at the university. They are not graduate roles.
Oh, oh, oh,
But
wow.
Indian students don't understand that, and I'm not sure about what is the situation for African students. But this is a major gap that I see in students when I attend career fairs and they ask you what's the placement percentage. I'm like, that's not a valid metric there, because the meaning differs.
Mm-hmm.
And next, the parents ask. Uh, so a lot of universities in UK have this integrated placement year,
Mm.
that is again like an internship. So they go
Yeah.
all relax, say university is going to give us placements and it's all sorted, but it's not that case. So so summing it up, the major challenge I feel is students should know this major difference in processes, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not like their home country where the opportunities are spoon fed. What UK universities essentially feel is, the way the course structure has been designed, they are equipping them with the career management skills, with the
Mm-hmm.
hard skills, and then now it depends on you. Yes,
Mm.
they have their career cell who would help you in networking with employers, CV support, mock interview support, and all of that, basically pointing them in the right employment direction. But you need to be very proactive, which is a
Mm.
major gap in India. You can leave certain things on your university, but you can't here.
Wow. I think that proactiveness within the community of international students is very, very important. That's a very, very, amazing point there. And also to also understand that the vocabularies being used back home and here, they are different. I mean,
True.
an example is the CV format, right? The CV used back home where I come from is different from what is being used here. But with these challenges now being faced by international students, right? How do you think the UK employers typically view international students? Like what are the stereotypes that you've experienced, within your own time here, or talking to international students?
I think there I hardly faced honestly any stereotypes, because I feel as the times are changing, employers have started to recognize the value that international students add.
Mm-hmm.
But having said that, I think there's still an inhibition of recruiting an international student over a local student.
Mm.
And I think one might go with the culture difference. They might fear that would an international student fit in with the culture, especially when it comes to speaking English. Now,
Mm.
yes, all the Indian students, African students, all the international students need that basic level of IELTS or TOEFL.
Yeah.
But passing in an exam might be very different in person as to how you actually communicate.
Mm-hmm.
So probably that might be an inhibition, that whether an international student could really fit in and understand the processes,
Yeah.
that might restrict them to consider the opportunity of getting board an international student. But I think this again comes down to the student to mark their value in terms of their eyes. So I've seen me getting offers as against some Britishers.
Mm.
So I think it's a two-way thing. Yes, employers need to be open to see what other skill set an international student is adding in their uh, basically what are they coming off with.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's on international students to prove
Yeah.
their territory, I would say.
So, from just what you've said now, right, what do you think the international student can do to show themselves worthy of a particular role being advertised on the job market?
Yeah, so I think that's a very good question. I think a lot of students need to work on that front. Firstly, again, this is again going back to the difference in culture. In
Hmm.
your home country, it might be that once you're graduating, it's then that you're looking out for jobs. But
Mm.
don't do this mistake in
Yeah.
UK or anywhere abroad. You have to be proactive right from first month, and I'm not exaggerating.
Mm.
Every international student should have it in their mind that I have to make the best of these 12 or 24 months, no matter what. So Matthew, when I was flying to UK, I already had a part-time role before flying to UK. I was already
Wow.
networking while I was in India.
Wow.
So this is the kind of proactive efforts you need. And what the best part about UK employees I felt as against Indian employers are, Indian employers would see a lot on your marks. Oh, she's a rank 1. Oh, she's a 90 percentile. I don't think UK employers really value that as long as you can demonstrate your skills. And that's
Hmm.
the best part. Even if you have 7 point, or if you have 8, 9, or if you're rank 1, they don't distinguish you. So
Mm.
leverage this fact as an international student. And how do you demonstrate your skills? By showing that you have developed the skills through different voluntary work, part-time work, some sort of projects in the university. So it's not
Hmm.
about your marks in academics and your
Yeah.
presentations, it's about your skills. I mean, it's such an overrated word, I know, but that's the number one thing that you can build on.
We cannot overemphasize the word skills. And you mentioned, volunteering projects in schools. It's proving your transferable skills. It's that proactiveness that you said initially, and also proving and showing, how they can use their skills in a relevant, job role. Thank you so much for that, Mayuri. So, what kind of support do you think universities and other organizations can offer to help international students navigate the job market in the UK?
I think one is just having a career cell is not enough.
Hmm.
Some sort of customized help would really go long way for international students. So not a lot of students might look out for jobs in UK or in Europe. Probably some might want to go back to India. So this is something that when I was working as a career coach in Coventry University, this is a project that I took up for Indian and African students, where I researched about the labor market situation in both the countries back home.
Hmm.
Just for example, if I'm a career coach in the career cell and Matthew from Africa comes to me and says, sorry, so which field did you study in UK?
MBA.
Let's say you come to me and say that I'm looking for a management role back in Africa, and can you please help me with that? And probably the UK team wouldn't have a lot of idea about what's going on back in your country. What are the
Hmm.
CV expectations? What are the processes like? What are employees' expectation out of your application? They would be fully versed with the UK part of it. But I think the customized local support would go a long way, number one. And for that, they would need an international person in their careers team. So going back to the first point, this is how be keeping and recruiting an international would give you that perspective, would give you that
Hmm.
local knowledge of what's happening back in the country.
Thank you so much for that, Mayuri. I mean, your response to that question is now taking me to a lot of different, topics that has been, among the international student community over the years. That representation is very, very important. I mean, for example, if you were not in that space in converting at the time, you won't be able to, give that customized, personalized, assistance to the international students.
If an employer would ask, okay, what is in it for me? So you have a very strong matrix that a university needs to take care of: graduate employment
Hmm.
percentage,
Yeah.
And if so, a lot of universities might claim, hey, we have a 96%, 95%, 94%. How do you get to that number of graduate
Mm,
employment rate? If you can't help your international students, your number are going to go upside down, left, right, center. But if you can support international students, you can actually prove your next batch of intakes and for admissions that, hey, we do provide good support for employment or all our international students. And I think it's making their case stronger for international students to choose their university, because honestly students don't have uh, any lack of options. There's so many
mm,
amazing UK universities
yeah,
out there providing all the good
yeah.
infrastructure, everything. So this thing might be a USP where they can actually leverage on, that we have an international team, international
Mhm.
supports team. So I think university should really leverage it.
And what I've discovered is that within the international student community, right, the word of mouth is very, very essential. They ask their peers, what's happening at the university? Can they do
Correct.
XYZ? So once a current student cannot sell your university well for you, then they move on to the next university. So it's very important that they take the international students extremely seriously. Thank you so much for that point, Mayuri. What advice do you have for international students who are starting their job search in the UK? And what kind of steps, do you think they can take in order to be able to increase their chances of being successful here in the UK?
All right. So number one, speaking out of my own experience, is not a step, but it's like a pre step, I would say. Develop on your confidence. See, so when I was an international student in UK, I I speak fair amount of English, and I mean I was quite presentable myself. But when for the first time I started interacting with Brits, I don't know, I sort of felt an inferiority just because of how they spoke. Their English is top
Mm,
notch, and not that I can't speak English, but it's just a sort of self doubt or self underconfident, I would say. So
mhm,
I think the first thing is to let go of all those inhibitions that will I be good enough, or I mean, there's so much competition. Will I be able to survive? Am I confident enough to speak to people from other cultures? And how the students can develop on this is by working in UK. So my first role, I remember, Matthew, was in a Subway,
mm,
basic sandwich maker. Like from an engineer, master's engineer, never thought I'll be a Subway sandwich maker. But what it
mhm,
helped, how it helped was, I used to get customers of different cultures and different accents,
mm,
and I was very underconfident because of the fact that I couldn't understand the accent. The Scottish accent would be very sharp. The London accent would be very different. So I just couldn't get hold of it. And if you're not understanding what the other person is saying, it drops down your confidence. So
mhm,
what that basic Subway experience taught me was how to communicate with different people.
mm,
So with every experience I used to get, ultimately, though it was not related to my course, it was nowhere related to career guidance, but it
mhm,
still helped me and it helped me go a long way, basically. And then once I started getting relevant part-time roles, Matthew, I changed 7 part-time roles in just 4 months.
mm.
So I
Wow.
keep pivoting, and the last three roles were directly related to my course. Of course, they would not have given me a part-time role which was directly relevant to my course. It was the first one. Now because I showed them, hey, I worked in Subway where I learned XYZ skills, then I worked here, I learned ABC skills, and then,
Mm,
as you said, transferable skills kept on building. Then the final role was something that was more meaningful to me, the role why I had gone to UK for studies. So going back, step number one for students could be, don't directly maybe ponder upon the top notch companies that you want to work for, because probably they would need their own UK experience. How you can
mm,
build on it? Look out for roles that would hone you in your transferable experiences, transferable skills, basically. Step number one. Step number two is leverage your career steam as much as you can. I still meet students, Matthew, in their 11th month of course, and they have no idea this is a free support that they can get from the university. So
Wow.
it's a massive shock for me, because I think it's such a useful resource that you should have used already. So step number two, leverage it. And step number three, channelize your efforts. What I mean by channelize your efforts is, Matthew, I've seen international students applying for 500 jobs and already applied for 500, but I'm not getting any response. So
Hmm.
it's not a right way to go ahead. What I would recommend is LinkedIn. Yes, it's a very good platform to start applying, but it's a very traditional platform. 10,000 other students are competing with you on LinkedIn. So
Hmm.
how do you create that unique selling point in your application? Approach the employers or the hiring team in a creative fashion. So don't just easy apply or apply on LinkedIn and that's it. Approach the hiring people. What are you looking for in the person? Can I have a quick call with you? I'm looking for this
Hmm.
role. So just
Hmm.
drop them an email, cold message them, network.
Hmm.
So all of these things. And the good thing is, uh, a lot of employers these days have clearly mentioned in their website whether they are open for sponsorships or not. Why would an international student apply for jobs where they have clearly written they are not looking out for international students? So you can save your time and efforts. So
Hmm.
I never used to apply blindly with any company. I
Okay.
always used to cold email them and ask them that this is the role that I'm looking for. These are the skills and experience that I have, and this is how I can add value to your team. But I
Hmm.
was just keen or curious to understand whether you are open for sponsorships. If it was a yes, only then I would put in my next 2 hours in applying to them. So these basic tips and hacks, I think international students should really consider, because then it'll be a lot of wastage of their time and efforts.
Wow. Mayuri, those are comprehensive steps you have mentioned there. The first one you mentioned is around that imposter syndrome. Can I actually do this? Am I fit for this? This is what they're looking for. Can I actually do I, fit the persona of the kind of person they want in their company? Thank you so much
Mm.
for sharing that, Mayuri. Okay. We really appreciate your time and your expertise. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to ISCANET Podcast today. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, keep breaking barriers. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Lovely speaking to you.